Welcome to the castle. My name is Nightsaber Z42, and this is example of play. You know those little introductory adventures that are usually at the ends of like core rulebooks? Well, I play through those adventures and I test out the systems. But unfortunately, with Drawsteel, there isn't really an adventure in the book. So, I'm going to play through the starter adventure, The Delian Tomb, which you can actually get on the Drawsteel website from mcdm. Anyways, let's grab some D10s and let's get to rolling. Long has the Delian Tomb stood undisturbed, until Queen Bargnot and the jagged-edged goblins found the site. A remnant of the long-fallen Kalian Empire, the tomb's frescoes reveal that the lower crypts held the Cup of Ilios, a powerful treasure with the power to turn its drinkers into fearsome warriors. Queen Bargnot wants the cup to turn her raging band of goblins into elite soldiers who can then lay siege to the peaceful village of Broadhurst, claiming its farms and resources as her own. But there's a problem. The cup lies in the lowest level of the tomb, which is behind two magically sealed passages. Unable to bash them down, Queen Bargnot ordered her retinue to capture a villager from Broadhurst and perform a wicked blood ritual to break the seals. The goblins captured Violet, the 18-year-old daughter and apprentice of Ashley, the village's blacksmith. The girl's mother is worried about her daughter's disappearance and heads to Broadhurst Tavern looking for help. And normally this is where the Delian Tomb begins. You begin in this inn, and this lady comes bursting through the door, and she tells you her tale, and of course, as heroes, you're supposed to go and rescue this person, her apprentice and her daughter. But we're actually going to skip all of that because I want to really focus on gameplay here, not so much role-playing. And so we're going to start with the first encounter, the Goblin Guards. And I really like how the Delian Tomb, or rather, this book presents its encounters. Because if you get the PDF, you get all of the maps, of course, but you also get these encounter sheets. And on the encounter sheet, it'll tell you basically everything you need to know. You get a rundown of how malice works, or the malice features, and how to calculate malice, which is something we'll talk about a little bit later. You also have the encounter conditions, the difficulty, what your rewards are going to be, and the most important thing that you're going to get is the encounter roster. So you get all of these different groups, their stamina trackers, their things like speed, stability, free strikes, and the distance they can move per turn, as well as any dynamic terrain or any objects that there are in this encounter. I really do like this sheet, and if these guys, mcdm, continue to make adventures for Drawsteel, I really hope they include stuff like this, because this is really what DMs need. But I digress. In our encounter, I actually want to see how we can do solo play. And so I have my character that I made in my character creation video, Core, the Orc Fury Berserker. We're gonna test him out a little bit. We're gonna let him take care of these goblins on our own. Well, maybe, because we're currently going through the forest to get to this tomb. So we're traveling through the Silverwood, and after about an hour of travel through the birch trees, just north of Broadhurst, Ashley, that's the blacksmith, leads us off the road and down a small overgrown footpath. She stops us just ahead of where the path opens into a clearing. There's a mossy stone doorway, which opens to stairs leading down into the earth. Deep carved letters at the top of the doorway announce the name Delius. Ashley points to the door and whispers, "That's where they took her." And of course, there's a secret here for DMs only. Basically, we need to make some sort of a check to see if we can sneak up on this group of goblins or if we're going to be found out. So this is really how they're going to introduce surprise. Ashley's warning is enough to make you all alert for danger as you head toward the tomb. it's time to make our first test. And in order to do that, we're going to take 2d10s and we're going to roll we're going to make a test with them. And I do appreciate that they give the whole narrative, what the DM is supposed to say to their players as they introduce these new mechanics, because at the end of the day, that's what this adventure is. It's a starting adventure for new players and new DMs alike, because this game has some fairly new and complicated mechanics tied to it. So I really do appreciate that. Now, because this is an intuition test, I'm going to be adding +1 to my roll because my intuition score is 1. So I'm going to roll my 2d10s, add +1, and that's basically my entire roll right there. But I might have a skill that I can use. For example, alertness, and I believe I do have that. It's under the intrigue skill line, so I have alertness. That's going to give me a +2 bonus. So effectively, I'm going to be adding +3 to this roll. On anything less than 11, we get the lowest possible outcome. On a 12 through 16, we get the middle outcome, and on a 17 and above, we get the best outcome. So let's go ahead, roll our 2d10s, and add +3. All right, 4 and 5 is 9 plus 3 is 12, so we just barely got that middle ground. The heroes and goblins notice each other at the same time. The heroes must roll to see which side acts first. Now, the way that encounters work, or at least turn order works, the players will go, then the DM will go, and then it goes back and forth. So the players get to choose one person to go, then the DM will choose one group to go, and it goes back and forth, just like that. But since we notice each other at the same time, we do need to decide who has initiative. And really what it comes down to is we're going to roll a single d10, and if the roll comes up as a 6 or higher, then the heroes will take their turn, or in this case, Kor will take his turn. Otherwise, the goblins will go first. So let's go ahead and roll our d10, and we got an 8, so that means Kor will get to go first. But just exactly who is Kor going up against? Well, in order to determine that, we need to look in the encounter book for the Delian Tomb. And this is just a booklet that has all of the encounters, and the first one is the Goblin Guards. And we'll see that we have the different Goblin Guard groups, as well as the encounter adjustments. So if you have 6 heroes, you're going to be adding some enemies. This is really a game that's made for about 5 players. If you have 4 heroes, you're going to be removing 2 Goblin Warriors at the start of the encounter, and for 3 heroes, you remove 4 Goblin Warriors. Okay, Ashley is just pretty much going to go off hiding somewhere, but then we do get a rundown of tactics as well as the encounter objectives, and then we have the stats for the different enemies. So we have the Goblin Warriors, and we have the Goblin Assassins. But here's the thing. Kor is going to go at this by himself, which means, well, it's going to be very tough for him if we're just going to remove 4 Goblin Warriors, because that means we'll have to contend with 4 Goblin Warriors and 2 Goblin Assassins. So already this is going to be quite difficult for him, especially considering that the stamina for each of those enemies is 15. So we're not going to be able to one-shot most of these guys. And that's going to be a problem because, well, when we roll to hit, we're actually rolling to see how much damage we do. So even the enemies will automatically hit us. It's just a matter of how hard do they deal their damage. And that's bad because, well, that means every time the enemy goes, our stamina is slowly dwindling. Why don't we go ahead and leave this off at 2 Goblin Warriors? We're just going to take away the Goblin Assassins, and let's just start with Goblin Warriors. They have a speed of 6, 15 stamina, and they have 1 free strike. They have the Spear Charge, which is a 2d10 plus 2 to hit, or rather to deal damage, and they can either deal 3 damage, 4 damage, or 5 damage. And of course, this is a tactics game, so let's go ahead and get our map going. Okay, I got my little handy dandy map book here. This is, actually, what is this? I've not really ever used any of these maps. This is like My Little Pony. This is the Little Book of Battle Mats by Loke Battle Mats. I got this as part of an extra thing from their dynamic terrain set. So they come with like stickers that you can stick onto the battle mats themselves, and It's actually really interesting. So what we're going to do, we're going to have Core, my little orc boy, right here. And we got 2 goblin warriors on the other side. And of course, they spot Core just as he spots them. But of course, he's quicker, so he gets to go first. But before we initiate our first action with Core, we need to talk about 2 things. First is our heroic resource. Our heroic resource is called ferocity. And ferocity, this is the thing that's specific to berserkers, or rather the fury. So at the start of an encounter, we gain ferocity equal to victories, which currently is at 0. At the start of each turn, gain 1d3 ferocity. So let's go ahead and do that. I got my handy dandy d3 right here. Don't worry, it's 3-sided. And I got 3. So we're going to start with 3 ferocity to start with. In addition to that, at the first time each round we take damage, we gain 1 ferocity. The first time each encounter we become winded or dying, we gain an additional 1d3 ferocity. At the end of the encounter, we lose any remaining ferocity, so this is only something that we keep during the encounter. That means I'm going to start with 3 ferocity, and I'm just going to keep that on the die there so I don't really have to go back and forth to erasing things. But what exactly does ferocity, or rather the heroic resource, do for us? Well, there's a lot of different actions that we have available to us, and some of them are called heroic actions. And so with these actions, some of them will cost 3 heroic resources, in this case 3 fury, or some of them will cost 5 ferocity. So I have back, which is a main action that costs 3, and then I have blood for blood, which costs 5. In addition to that, however, there is something that's a little bit unique to the fury. You see, whenever we have ferocity, we actually get some benefits. So at 2 ferocity, whenever we use the knockback maneuver, the forced movement distance gains a bonus equal to our might score. So we're going to be really good at knocking back enemies. We also have something at 4 ferocity and at 6 ferocity. We do have something at 8th ferocity, but that's when we hit 4th level, and we also have something at 10 ferocity, which is at 7th level, and 12 ferocity for 10th level. So it's really good for us to start banking our ferocity and use our ferocity when we really need to. Anyways, back to combat. Core is right over here, and the goblins are on the opposite side. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And Core can only move, like 5 squares, 6 squares. So he's not really going to be getting in range. That is, unless we have an ability. And he does. He has a signature ability granted by his Panther kit. We have Devastating Rush. Basically, what this allows us to do is that we can move up to 3 squares straight toward the target before the strike, which will deal extra damage equal to the number of squares moved. But hold on a minute, we're further than 3 squares away from the goblins. Well, you see, we actually have 3 different actions that we can use. We can use a main action, we can use a move action, and we can use a maneuver action. And I'm playing very loose with the term action. They're not really actions. They're just things that you do. We have 3 of them that we can use. We can forego our main action to perform 2 maneuvers and a move, or we could use all 3 of them. Whatever the case is, we have all 3 of them. So I can actually move, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces, and then perform my main action, Devastating Rush. 1, 2, 3 spaces for that extra damage bonus, which is exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm going to move my 3 squares, and now I'm going to hit Goblin A right over here. And in order to do that, we're going to roll our 2d10s. We're going to add our might score, which is, I believe, 2, and then calculate what damage I have left over. And let's see, is there anything else that I can use that will help me out? Well, we have Primordial Strength, but if I remember correctly, that only works against objects. And if I knock other creatures into objects, I get that extra melee damage or might damage. So really nothing's going to help me out here. So I'm just going to take my +2 bonus and roll my 2d10s. And here we go. 7 + 5 is 12 plus 2 is 14. So we get that middle success. So the 12 through 16, I deal 6 plus might or agility damage. So I'm going to be dealing 8 damage to this guy. But since I moved 3 squares, I deal an additional 3 damage for 11 damage. So we didn't quite one-shot that guy, but still, that's quite a bit of damage. We'll definitely get him on our next turn. Now, we are in a little bit of trouble here because we got 2 goblin warriors here, and they're both going to get to act. They have the spear charge, so we're going to roll 2d10 and add 2, and they're either dealing 3, 4, or 5 damage. So the first one is we got 3, so with a 5, they're only going to deal 3 damage. So core is going down to 24, and the other is 5 and 6 is 11. So that's going to put him at the 4 damage. So we're down to 20. So you can kind of see that with solo play right here, if I was running any more groups, we'd probably be down in 1 or 2 rounds. So this is pretty bad for us. But since we were damaged for the first time, we do get an extra ferocity. So I'm going to go ahead and bump that up to 4. And that means it is now back to core. Now, because we have 4 ferocity, in addition to the 2 ferocity benefit, we have a new one as well. So the first time you push a creature on a turn, you gain 1 surge. And I'm not really going to use that because what I really want to do is use my back ability. But of course, it's the beginning of a round, I believe. So I gain 1d3 ferocity. I'm going to go ahead and roll for that real quick. We have another 1, so that's going to get bumped up to 5. I am going to go ahead and use back, so that's going to cost me 3 ferocity, bumping it down back to 2. And what this allows me to do, this is a burst area. So because the 2 goblins are adjacent to me, they're in a burst 1. This is going to affect both of them. I'm going to roll my 2d10 plus might. I'm either dealing 5 damage, 8 damage, or 11 damage. And if I get a 12 through 16, I can push 1. Or on a 17 up, I can push 3. And of course, I do some pretty cool stuff with some knockbacks. So yeah, let's roll the 2d10s and see what it is that we get. Regardless, that first goblin that I hit is going down. So I have a 9 plus 2 is 11. Unfortunately, that just gives me 5 damage, no pushback. And this isn't a 5 damage plus might or agility. This is straight up just 5 damage. So this goblin, yeah, he's done. He went bye-bye. The other one is going to take 5 damage. So that was a really good ability for us to use in the moment because now we might be able to actually deal with that goblin. But now it is the goblin's turn. And this one's a bit interesting because the success conditions state that the goblins fight until they are numbered 2 to 1, and then they're going to flee. Well, it's definitely not 2 to 1, it's 1 to 1. But I would also imagine that a big scary orc is right there who just went ahead and killed off his friend. I think that maybe we should roll for that. So let's go ahead and roll. We'll do a 50-50 shot on a d6. 1 through 3, he's going to flee. On a 4, 5, and 6, he's going to muster his courage and stay. And of course, he got a 6. So he's going to stay and try to fight us off. Because, I guess he thinks he's all that. Even though he just was dealt 5 damage. Anyway, spear charge, 2d10. How much damage are we taking? 6 plus 2 is 8. So we're taking 3 damage. But of course, it is now Core's turn. So the first thing we're going to do is roll for ferocity. We gain another 2. I also forgot because we were just injured for the first time that turn, we are going to gain an additional 1, so that puts us back at 5. And, well, let's go ahead and attack. The question is, what will deal 10 damage? And the only thing that I can think of is our heroic ability back, which will cost us 3 points right there. So we're going to go down to 2, And we're just going to go ahead and roll that and see hopefully that we can get a 17 or even the middle, the 12 through 16. So let's go ahead and roll. We have a 9 plus 7. That is 16 plus 2. Hey, look at that. We actually did it. We did 17. We got that 17 plus, which will deal 11 damage. Now, the thing is, we have something called the Panther Kit. This is our equipment, effectively. And part of our equipment says that we get a melee damage bonus. Now, anything less than an 11, we're going to get plus 0. 12 through 16, we get 0. But on a 17 and above, we deal plus 4 melee damage. And of course, in the keyword for back, well, it's an area, weapon, and melee. So we're going to deal plus 4 damage. So that's 15 damage right there. And we're going to push him back. So boop, he gets pushed back somewhere off the map. Boom. And there we go. We actually would have one-shotted him if that was the first damage that he took from us. But, well, we're not doing so well. We lost 10 damage in one encounter with 2 goblin warriors. Yeah, we're not long for this adventure. But of course, there's a backup because this is a world of heroes. And so what we're going to do, we're going to introduce 3 heroes. You see, Core was probably just the scout, scouting ahead with Ashley, the blacksmith lady. And so our new adventuring party. Allow me to introduce Ulion, the high elf tactician vanguard. We have Christian, the censor paragon. And we have Misfire, the Polder Elementalist Fire Specialist. Together with Core, they are going to delve into the Delian Tomb. Let's go ahead and get the next map going. Now, before we move on into the tomb proper, we need to talk about victories. Because every time we complete an encounter, provided that we complete its conditions for success, we gain a victory. And, well, what does that victory do for us? Well, it kind of translates into XP whenever we rest at in a safe space. But in addition to that, whenever we gain our heroic resource, for every victory that we have, I believe we gain an extra one. Let's see. Each time we start a new combat encounter, you gain heroic resources equal to the number of victories you have. So at the start of the encounter, we gain 1d3 ferocity plus 1. So very handy for us to kind of keep going instead of taking a respite, after every encounter, like in Neverwinter Nights or something like that. Just keep going because you're going to have that resource to kind of bank on. And with the Fury, that kind of is significant, provided that we do the benefits allotted to us. The next thing we need to do is talk about resting, or rather recovery. You see, this game is going to whittle your characters down quite a bit. We were fighting 2 goblin warriors and we took 10 damage, or 10 stamina damage. And, well, if we had to go at another encounter, it'd probably be more and then more. So in order to lessen the blow of constantly losing stamina, we can use something called recoveries. So when we're not in an encounter, we can use a recovery to regain about 1/3 of our max stamina. In this case, that would be 9 stamina. So that would put Core at 26. And we can use as many recoveries as we want. In combat, there is something called, let's see if I can find it, Catch a Breath. That is a maneuver. And there are some actions that will allow us to use recoveries. I believe the Censor class will actually allow other players to use recoveries to regain stamina. That's their way of healing others. So it's always a good idea to keep track of your stamina and carry any healing potions that you might have. Keep them ready because that allows you to effectively gain stamina without having to use your own recovery. But now we have a full party. We have 4 in our party. So let's go ahead and dive into the first level of the tomb. The stairs of the tomb descend into a chamber that glows orange thanks to a flickering brazier in the center of the floor. The light illuminates faded frescoes on the wall that show starving, wounded humans drinking from an ornate silver chalice and turning into powerful, healthy warriors who battle a horde of demons. Many bedrolls lie scattered on the floor of this chamber where 24 goblins huddle, ready with their weapons drawn. At this point in the adventure, if you're using the pre-generated characters, you're going to unlock new abilities with them. I'm not going to do it that way because, one, I have a character that I create myself and I'm going to use every single advantage that I have allotted to me. And two, I'm going to use every advantage allotted to me for this one because now we have 4 and this game is going to hit hard. Let's figure out how we're going to adjust our encounter and figure out where we're going to place all of these goblins, which I may or may not have standees for. Since we are playing with a party of 4 now, we're going to remove 2 goblin warriors. So if we take a look at our groups, we have the 1 goblin warrior captain, 4 goblin spine cleavers. We have another group that's 1 goblin warrior, 4 goblin spine cleavers. We have the 1 goblin warrior, 4 goblin snipers, 1 goblin warrior, and 4 goblin snipers. And then we have the 2 goblin warriors that we're going to get rid of. Now, that's who we're going to be fighting, with the exception of the 2 goblin warriors. So let's find them, and we're going to take them off of our encounter sheet, because we're not going to deal with them. Okay, so there we go. They're crossed off. Now, we do need to talk about squads for a moment, because the goblin warriors, captains, are going to be attached to minion squads. And the thing about minions is that they have a collective pool of stamina, but each individual has so much stamina. For example, the goblin spine cleavers, they have 5 stamina apiece. But whenever you attack a minion group, you're going to be taking from the total pool. So for the spine cleavers, in which there are 4 included, their total stamina is going to be 20. Now, whenever we deal 5 damage to that specific group, we're effectively killing off one of the spine cleavers. However, if we deal like more than 5, then 5 damage would go to 1 spine cleaver, killing him, and then the remaining damage would go into a different spine cleaver. Area of effect spells would go ahead and affect all of them that are inside of this spell of effect. A little bit differently, but I don't believe I have any of that right now, so I'm not going to worry about it. These guys, they act at the same time, but that doesn't necessarily mean that their damage is going to compound because they're not individually acting. They're acting together as a collective group. These guys, by the way, will have a captain attached to them, which will kind of have some effects. So specifically with the spine cleavers, they're going to have +1 damage bonus to strikes. For the goblin snipers, their with captain ability is a little bit different. They get +5 bonus to ranged distance, so they can actually attack at range 15 instead of 10. Not that it's really going to matter in this tiny space that we're in, but hey. Here we have our battle map as it is, and well, that's a lot of goblins, okay? Each squad, by the way, is going to have a captain associated with it. So I got my smaller goblins. We got this goblin sniper. These are going to each be 4 groups. I'm not going to bother placing 4 of minions for each of those groups. Just going to keep track of it. That way they're going to collectively move anyways. And then we've got our goblin spine cleavers and goblin spine cleavers, 4 each, and then we've got our goblin warrior, and goblin warrior right there in the back, and those are going to serve as captains, 1 captain for each of the groups, so they're effectively powering that group up. They are going to go at the same time as that specific squad as well. Okay, now we got to figure out who's going first. So let's roll our D10. And we got a 6 right there, so we are going to go first as the heroes. And actually, I think it'd be best if our tactician Ulion goes first. Now, Ulion is a tactician. His heroic resource works a little bit differently than Kor's. So let's see, he has focus. At the start of combat, he's going to gain focus equal to the number of victories he has, which is going to be 0. Kor is the only one who actually did any work, so he's got 1 victory. At the start of each of our turns during combat, we're going to gain 2 focus. Okay. Additionally, the first time each combat round that you or any ally damages a creature marked by you, you gain 1 focus. The first time in a combat round that any ally within 10 squares of you uses a heroic ability, you gain 1 focus. You lose any remaining focus at the end of the encounter. Okay, I think that the first thing that we're going to do is have him mark somebody. Okay, mark for Ulion is a maneuver. So remember, we gain 1 movement, 1 maneuver, and 1 main action. And so we're going to go ahead and do that. It's a ranged action with a range of 10, so pretty much anybody on the field we can hit. The target is marked by you until the end of the encounter, until you are dying, or until you use this ability again. You can willingly end your mark on a creature, no action required, and if another tactician marks a creature, your mark on that creature ends. When a creature marked by you is reduced to 0 stamina, you can use a free triggered action to mark a new target within distance. You can initially mark only 1 creature using this ability, yada yada yada. While a creature marked by you is within your line of effect, you and allies within your line of effect gain an edge on power rolls made against this creature. That means we gain +2 bonus. Additionally, whenever you or any ally uses an ability to deal rolled damage to a creature marked by you, you can spend 1 focus to gain one of the following benefits as a free triggered action. The ability deals an additional 4 damage. The creature dealing the damage can spend a recovery. The creature dealing the damage can shift up to 2 squares. If you damage the creature with a melee ability, the creature is taunted by you. You can't gain more than 1 benefit from the same trigger. Of course, he is going to go ahead and mark probably this group right here, just for core. And really, what I think we're going to do, we're going to have him use something called Strike Now. This is a main action. This is going to be a target of 1 ally, range of 10. The effect is the target can use a signature ability as a free triggered action, and we're going to target Core. And Core's signature ability is Devastating Rush. So Core is going to close the distance and start attacking that marked goblin. And so we're going to go ahead and have him move 1 space because it does have to be a straight line. Although I'm wondering if we can also make do with 1, 2. Would that work? Could that work? I would go ahead and attempt to say yes. And so we're going to go ahead and roll our 2d10s. We're going to be adding quite a bit. We're going to add our 2 might and then our 2 squares for that damage. And we have a 2 and a 5 is 7, plus another 2 is 9. So that's going to be 3 damage plus 2, so that's 5, plus an additional 2, which is 7. So we do kill off one of these goblins. And then for our move, we're just going to have Ulion kind of scooch up just a little bit, just so that he's still within range of Core there. All right, so that is their turn. Now we need to move on to the goblins, the goblin spine cleaver specifically. Then again, we could go ahead and have one of the goblin snipers go. Actually, I think that would be quite fine because they're just going to sit there and shoot. All right, so we're going to go ahead and have this group go ahead and shoot. And, well, who are they going to target? Well, how about the little guys standing in the back? So they're going to go ahead and target Misfire. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, they are definitely within range. They have to be within 15 squares. So they definitely have that. With the captain attached, they are going to have that +5 range. And since they are not going to use a move action, they're going to gain an edge for this ability. That means they get a +2. So instead of +2, it's now +4. They have 10. +4, that's 14, so they're dealing 4 damage to Misfire. Ouch. By the way, she has max HP of 18, now she's at 14, so that's no bueno. Anyways, it is one of the hero's turns, and I think it only fitting that we go ahead and let Core take his actual turn. And because it is his first turn, I guess we should actually go ahead and roll the d3 and see what he gets. Now, he automatically gets 1 ferocity because of Fury, and now he has 2. So now we're going to bump that up to 3. Now, this is going to seem really silly, but I think Core is going to go ahead and activate his back ability. So this is going to allow him to push the enemy within a burst of 1 around him, hopefully into the fire. That's our goal. So we're going to go ahead and roll 2d10 with our might, and that is 7 plus 7, which is 14, plus another 2 is 16. So we get 8 damage and a push of 1. So that means that we actually kill off 2 of these little goblins because of the damage that carried over from his previous attack or triggered attack. So there's only 1 left. Now, this brazier actually does something. So anytime a creature touches it or starts their turn in it, they take 2 damage. So the last remaining guy is going to be taking 2 damage right off the bat. Unfortunately, he has 3 HP left, so when he starts his turn, he's still going to be alive. Anyways, Core is going to go ahead and move up. He's going to try to go toe-to-toe with this goblin warrior here. Anyways, we are going to have the other group of snipers go ahead and make their shots. And they just saw Core kind of push this goblin group back, and so they feel threatened by him. This guy is coming for them. So they are going to try to shoot him. And so 2d10 plus 4, because they haven't moved, is 9 plus 4, which is 13. They're going to deal 4 damage to Core. Okay, that puts him at 22. So not so good. He does gain 1 ferocity because that was the first time this round that he was dealt damage. So there we go. And I kind of just imagine that these 2 captains are sticking by their squad as they let the melee focus guys have a go at them because, well, they don't think that these guys are going to last very long. And also because I may have forgotten to have moved them during their turn. Anyways, next up, let's go ahead and have Christian go. This is our censor here. Now, Christian, since he's a censor paragon, he has the Wrath heroic ability. So at the start of the combat, he gains 2 Wrath. And additionally, the first time each combat round that a creature judged by him deals damage to him, he gets 1 Wrath. The first time each combat round that he deals damage to a creature judged by him, he gains 1 Wrath. And of course, he's going to lose that Wrath at the end of the encounter. So he's got 2 Wrath already. And by the way, I am keeping track of my heroic resources with the dice. So we've got Ulion, Core, Christian, and then Misfire right there. And let's see. He has, actually, how do we mark? Okay, so we do have a maneuver called Judgment. So the target is judged by us until the end of the encounter. Whenever a creature judged by you uses a main action and is within your line of fire, you can use a free triggered action to deal 4 holy damage to them. Wow. When a creature judged by you is reduced to 0 stamina, you can use a free triggered action to use this ability against a new target. Additionally, you can spend 1 Wrath to take one of the following free triggered actions. When an adjacent creature judged by you starts to shift, you make a melee free strike against them and their speed becomes 0 until the end of the current turn, preventing them from shifting. Wow. So that's disengage taken right off the board for them, except goblins don't use disengage, by the way. They just automatically, actually they don't provoke opportunity attacks by moving. Actually, they wouldn't shift anyway, so they would just move and not have that attack of opportunity. So yeah, I guess he won't be using that against them. When a creature judged by you within 10 squares makes a power roll, you cause them to take a bane on the roll. Wow, that's actually really fun. When a creature judged by you within 10 squares uses an ability with a potency that targets only 1 creature, the potency is reduced by 1 for that creature. And if you damage a creature judged by you with a melee ability, the creature is taunted by you until the end of the turn. Wow, that's really good. Anyways, I think he's going to go ahead and head off this way. So he's going to go ahead and judge this Goblin Spine Cleaver group, and then he's going to go ahead and engage with them. That way, they will try to attack him, and he'll get Wrath. And I think the best thing that we can do is use Pain for Pain. This is a signature ability. It's a main action, targets 1 creature, 2d10 plus 2 damage, and that's pretty much it. So let's go ahead and roll for Christian. We have a 20 right there. And I believe that is also a crit. So 19s and 20s are crits. And crits kind of work a little bit differently in Draw Steel, but first we're going to go ahead and calculate damage for this. So since he has above a 17, he is dealing 15 damage. If the target dealt damage to us since the end of our last turn, this strike deals an additional 2 damage, which they have not. That he's basically going to straight up kill 3 of these guys right off the bat. And that's awesome. Now, let's talk about the critical. When you get a 19 or a 20, that's natural before any modifiers are applied. You get to act again. You get to do another main action or anything like that. And that's actually really powerful because that is effectively allowing us to deal even more damage. And what we're going to do is pain for pain. We're just straight up going to get rid of this group. So another 2d10, and we have a 7 plus, I believe, 2, which is 9. That's still dealing 5 damage. So this group right here, they are done. Christian just came in and wrecked them with his... Actually, what does he even have? I don't know. It doesn't really say. But that's okay. Actually, it probably does. Nope, it does not say. He just has like some sort of a melee. Maybe like a mace or something that he has. And he just totally wrecked them. Anyways, it is now one of the other group's turn. And, well, the only thing that I can really think to do is have the Spine Cleaver group go. They're automatically going to take 2 damage. But they still have 1 HP left. And so really what they're going to do is they're just going to... well, I would imagine they would take a step back and try to deal with, man, well, they do have flanking, so that's going to be nice. Actually, why don't we go ahead and, yeah, let's go ahead and act on that. They're going to gain flanking, which I believe is just a +2 bonus. And so they're going to use their axes, or their axe, his axe, 2d10 plus 2. That's a 13 plus 2, which is 15. So they're going to deal 4 damage and push 3. Now, since the captain is there, they are going to deal +1 damage. So that's actually 5 damage to Core. That's really bad considering that puts him at 17. And now the warriors get to go. Or rather, the warrior captain that's with this specific squad. And he's got Bury the Point or Spear Charge. Let's go ahead and do Spear Charge. So 2d10, and let's see how much damage he's got. 14 plus 2, 16, so 4 damage. So that's a lot of damage that Core just took. And now he is at 13, so he's not doing too well. Okay, now it is Miss Fire's turn. At the start of combat, she gains essence equal to victories, so that's going to be 0. At the start of each of her turns during combat, she gains 2 essence, so we do have that right there. Additionally, the first time each combat round that you or a creature within 10 squares takes damage that isn't untyped or holy damage, you gain 1 essence. And so I would imagine that she's going to be at 3. So I didn't know about that when she took her damage. You lose any remaining essence at the end of the encounter. Okay. She's also an Acolyte of Fire, so she's an expert at wielding destructive flames. Your abilities that have the fire and magic keywords gain +1 bonus to roll damage, already included. Okay. Your Hurl element ability also grants this bonus when you use it to deal fire damage, which is already included on her character sheet because she's pre-generated. Okay, so what does she have? I think the best thing that she can do is use as a maneuver Practical Magic, which is her signature ability. So we can choose one of the following effects. You can use the knockback maneuver at a distance of range 10 and use Reason instead of Might for the power roll. You choose a creature within 10 squares of you and deal 2 damage to them. The damage type can be Acid, Cold, Corruption, Fire, Lightning, Poison, or Sonic. Or you teleport up to 2 squares. If you choose this option, you could spend Essence to teleport 1 additional square for every Essence point. We're just going to go ahead and snipe this dude and get rid of him. Pew! Fire damage right there. He's dead. Okay, that's our maneuver because she's going to be hiding back. She's going to choose to stay back, but she's also going to be within range. Let's help out Core here. And really, let's see, if she's going to help out Core, let's just try to take him out in one go. We're going to use the Flesh a crucible. This is going to use her 3 essence, so that's going to go away. It's got a range of 10. It's one creature or object. On an 11 or less, she's going to deal 9 fire damage. 12 through 16, it's 12. And a 17 and above is 15 fire damage. And in addition to that, she can choose to take 1 less essence per turn. That's what persistent 1 means. So if the target is within distance at the start of your turn, you can make the power roll again without spending essence. No action required. So that's very powerful, especially if we can keep that guy within our distance. So let's go ahead and roll 2d10, which is 8 plus 9 is 17, plus another 2 is 19. Unfortunately, that's not a crit because it wasn't natural, but we do deal 15 fire damage. So this guy is now a toasty little goblin. And there we go. Now we can really see the destructive might of an elementalist. That's awesome. She managed to finish off one of the goblin spine cleavers. She took care of one of the warriors on their own. I imagine that now the others are really paying attention to this group, and they are a very real threat. So now the goblin warriors who were just kind of sitting back are going to take notice and now take part in combat. And I believe there's only one group that has not gone yet, and that is this one right here. What can he do? Well, I think he's going to have to go up and try to deal some damage. 1, 2 squares, and he's going to target Christian. He's going to use Spear Charge yet again, and let's see. 1 and 10 is 11, plus 2 is 13. So he is going to deal 4 damage to Christian. Now, fortunately for him, his max stamina is 30, so yeah, he's got 26. Wow, he actually has like more than core, but that's okay. That's okay. Anyways, now it is the hero's turn. Let's see if we can really do some damage here. And I guess really what I should have done if I wanted to maximize, because Christian destroyed that first group, he would have been able to judge somebody else, and I would have judged the goblin warrior right there. So we're going to go ahead and give Christian an extra 1 wrath for that. Now let's see who is going to go. And I think we're going to let Christian go first, and I think he's just going to go ahead and attack this warrior right here with Pain for Pain. Because it is his turn, he is going to gain 2 wrath. Actually, let's take a look at his 5 ability. It's called Resist the Unnatural, it's called Arrest, which deals a bunch of holy damage, 8, 11, or 19, and they are grabbed, which is just absolutely brutal. Do we need to use it? Absolutely not, but it's kind of funny. I believe what we'll do is the gods punish and defend. That's a 3 wrath ability for us. So we're going to go ahead and bump our wrath to 3 because there's an effect where we can spend a recovery to allow ourselves or one ally within 10 squares to regain stamina equal to your recovery value. Actually, what is his recovery value? It is 10. Okay. So we can allow core to regain 10 stamina, which is really nice. So let's go ahead and use that. I'm going to roll our 2d10, and we have 3 and 6, which is 9, plus 2 is 11. Unfortunately, they're only taking 7 holy damage, which is actually going to give him an extra wrath because he's attacking somebody who's been judged by him. And now, let's see. This goblin warrior is down to 8 stamina, and we're going to allow core to regain 10 stamina, which is very nice. Okay, now one of the goblin groups is going to go, and I think it's only fitting that we let one of the sniper groups go, probably the same one. We're going to let this one go first, and we're also going to have the captain kind of get in there. So goblin sniper, since they're not moving, they're going to get a +2 bonus, so that's +4. 2 and 8 is 10, plus another 4 is 14. So they're going to deal 4 damage to core, of course, after he was just healed a little bit too, by the way. So, I mean, that's just the way the game is played. And then this goblin warrior is going to close the distance and use Spear Charge, 2d10. Let's see, 7 and 2 is 9, plus another 2 is 11. So 3 damage going to core. And now core is at 16 stamina, which is fine by me. Let's see. Let's go ahead and have. Let's see. We had Christian go. Can we have Ulion do something before Core acts? I think what he's going to do, he's definitely going to go 1, 2, 3, and 4. He's going to go around and try to flank this Goblin Warrior and help out Core, because now he's going to get a +2 bonus. But other than that, he's going to go ahead and use his, well, let's go ahead and mark. That's going to be our maneuver. We'll mark this guy, and then he's going to use Protective Attack, which basically says that this Goblin Warrior is now going to be taunted. And I also forgot, because somebody used a heroic ability, he does gain a focus. So we're going to go ahead and give him that focus. So he's going to be at 4. And because it was also the start of his turn, he's going to get 2 focus. So he's going to be at 6. So there we go. He's got 6. Unfortunately, he doesn't have anything that scales with the amount of focus that he has. But he could go ahead and use... Actually, he doesn't really have a 5 focus ability other than Strike Now. He can spend 5 focus so that 2 allies can use a signature ability, but we're not going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and use Protective Attack, get that +2 bonus. So that's going to be +4 all total. So that's 18. That was so close to a crit, but the +4 is going to push that over to 20. He's going to deal 13 damage, and this guy is now taunted. Man, he is just 2 stamina away from just kicking the bucket right there. And that's rather unfortunate. But oh well. This guy is taking some damage from being marked, so he's going to gain an additional 1 stamina or 1 focus. But I'm not going to really keep track of that because, yeah, we've done quite a bit here. And I don't really plan on using his focus for much else. Let's go ahead and have the other sniper group go. They are, of course, going to attack. They're going to attack Christian there. Let's see, 7 and 8. That is 15 damage right there, plus another 2. Of course, they are going to deal 5 damage to Christian. Ouch. But hey, he's got stamina for days. He's got 21 left. This Goblin Warrior, 1, 2, 3, 4. Probably just kick them into the fire and get right up in there. 5, and he is going to go ahead and attack Spear Charge. It actually, let's go ahead and do something different. Now, I have not been keeping track of Malice at all. I actually haven't really anticipated me using Malice at all for this combat. I was going to introduce that into the next combat, but that's probably not going to be the case because this video has been running long enough, and I think you guys get the point. But the way that Malice works is you take the number of heroes, which is 4, plus the amount of victories, which I guess I could just round that up to 1 because Core is the only one that has 1, plus the number of rounds, and that is going to be how much Malice we have to start with. You can use Malice for different effects. For example, the goblins have Brutal Effectiveness, which costs 3, and then Malicious Strike, which costs 5. Goblins, the actual enemies, like the Goblin Warriors and the Goblin Snipers, they would also have different Malice attacks. Like the Goblin Warrior has the Bury the Point attack, which can deal bleeding damage. It also says Goblin Mode, each goblin in the encounter gains a +2 to speed until the end of the round. That's a little feature that we can use. Tiny Stabs, each enemy in the encounter takes 1 damage for each goblin adjacent to them. That costs 5 Malice. Or Swamp Stink, which costs 7 Malice. So the encounter map becomes covered in a green mist that lasts until the end of the round, and which can't be dispersed by wind. All areas of the map become difficult terrain for non-goblins, and each non-goblin on the map must make a might test with some different effects. I'm actually going to spend what Malice I would have had to use Bury the Point. And basically, every round, you would gain Malice equal to the number of heroes plus rounds. So this is what, like round 3 or something like that. So I'd be gaining 7 Malice or something like that. So you're expected to be using your Malice on these different abilities and whatnot. So we're going to use just to kind of test things out, because I actually want to play around with something called potency, which is what Bury the Point is going to force me to do. So we're going to attack Christian with Bury the Point. We have just a 9 plus 2, 11. Okay, that's only 5 damage. I say that like that was absolutely nothing for him, but he's actually got the lowest stamina pool right now. And now we get to talk about bleeding, or rather potency. And I think it'd be best if I actually read it straight from the book itself. Some of you gained a heroic ability that utilizes a mechanic called potency. An ability with a potency gives the target a chance to resist its effects. My monsters also have the ability with potencies. Ability effects that have a potency are applied to a target only if the effect's potency value is higher than the target's indicated characteristic score. A potency always appears as a single letter abbreviation for the target's characteristic. And so for this instance, it would be M, which is might. That characteristic is followed by a less than sign in your potency value. For example, might less than 2 days save ends means if the target's might is less than 2, they are days save ends. And well, we have an M minus 0 bleeding save ends. It is at 2, so he is not bleeding. And I guess that should be M less than 0, not less than or equal to 0. So, because you can't actually have negative scores for your abilities. But if it was the M less than sign 3, or if M was less than 3, then he would be bleeding. And that would be bad. For him, at least. Anyways, it is now Core's turn, and, well, let's see. I would really like to just destroy this goblin, but also be able to do something else. So what I think I'm going to do, this is going to be really weird. I'm going to move right here. I'm going to use a maneuver, which I have neglected to do with this guy, just because on my actual action sheet, he doesn't have any maneuvers, but he always has access to maneuvers. So we're going to use knockback. What does knockback actually do? Well, this is an action that I probably should have written on my sheet, because it is an action. It's a maneuver action. Targets one creature. Anything less than 11 is going to push 1. 16 through 12 is going to push 2. And anything above 17 is going to push 3. And really, what that is going to do is, well, we're going to push him into this column, which is going to deal damage. Because, remember, I have a handy little feature that allows me to deal might damage whenever I knock them into other objects, which is exactly what I'm going to do. And really, for the sake of rolling, I'm just going to go ahead and roll. He's getting pushed back 1. He's going to take 2 damage, and he is now dead. There we go. We did it. Well, that was my maneuver, so I still have my move action, or what's left of it, and my main action, but I'm actually going to go ahead and use Devastating Rush, which allows me to move 3. 1, 2, 3. And we're going to go ahead and attack. With an 11 plus 2 is only 13. So I don't know why I decided to make that sound fancy. So we're dealing 3 plus might, which is 5 damage plus 3. That's going to be 8. Now, believe it or not, we actually just eliminated like 2 of these guys right off the bat. So that's pretty exciting. Anyways, that is Core's turn. So we're going to go ahead and move it on to, well, who's left? Let's see. I do believe that is everybody. So that means Miss Fire gets to go next. And she's kind of just been like chilling out back here watching everything happen. So what can she really do? What does she want to do? Well, she's going to gain 2 focus or essence because of that. And really, I guess because somebody has taken damage that wasn't holy. What is it? First time each combat round that you or a creature within 10 squares takes damage that isn't untyped or holy damage. So we gain 1. Okay, so she does have 3 essence. So we can use the Flesh a Crucible again. And, well, I think she's just going to go ahead and use the Flesh a Crucible, which is going to cost her 3 essence. Probably on the one that is already damaged, because that is just going to straight up kill him. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to go ahead and roll. We have 9 plus 4, which is 13, plus another 2 is 15. So close. 12 damage. This guy is dead. All right, that's pretty good. Back to the top of the round, and one of the goblins is going to go, and this group is just kind of looking really weird. Well, actually, There's one sniper group that still has their captain. So we're going to go ahead and have that sniper group go. This one that hasn't been damaged yet. They are, of course, going to rain down with arrows. 9 plus 10. Ooh. Yeah, that's pretty bad. And I actually wonder, does crit also work for creatures? Would have to imagine so. Yeah, so let's go ahead and do that. So they're going to deal 5 damage to Christian, who is now at 9 stamina, and we're going to go ahead and say that they're going to attack Misfire as well. 10 plus 2 is 12, plus another 2, or with the edge, that's only going to be 4 damage. So Misfire's taking 4 damage, putting her at 10. So she's not the one that has the least amount of stamina, but she's not too far off. That was pretty brutal. Anyways, Goblin Warrior is going to go ahead and, let's see. I think we're just going to go ahead and spear charge this one. 13 plus 2 is 15, so 4 damage going to Christian yet again, and he's at 5 stamina left. Oh, he's just barely hanging on. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and have him go. And really what I would like to see him do is just like have enough of this goblin. He's going to arrest. He's going to spend his 5 wrath, and he's just going to go ahead and use arrest. And so hopefully we're going to do a lot of damage. 8 and, oh man, so close to a crit. So yeah, he's dealing 19 damage. He like grabs him and he burns, and yeah, he's just like crispy and ashes now. So that goblin is definitely done for, which means we have one more goblin sniper group that can still go, but this is a lost cause for them. They see that, and so they are going to flee. This one is definitely going to get away scot-free. This one, because goblins have the crafty ability, they don't provoke opportunity attacks by moving. So yeah, Ulian and Kor are just going to be forced to let them go. And there we go. That is our combat right there in a nutshell. 2 combats, one with true solo and then one with a group. So this one is very interesting. It's definitely more tactical, more so than I was thinking, because you really have to be aware of where your stamina is. You definitely need some way of regaining it during combat. So having a sensor, being able to heal, or just having health potions is definitely going to be a boon for your team. But I do also really like the action economy too. Like, you have 3 actions, a main action, a move action, and a maneuver action. And those maneuvers can really be effective if you know when to use them. Like, I probably should have been using Kor's knockback ability a little bit more often, especially with that he has some like line of force. I can select a new target of the same size or smaller to be force moved instead. Forced movement distance gains a bonus equal to might score. So if he's got like 2 enemies that he's adjacent to, he can definitely do that. And then he's also got primordial strength, which deals extra melee damage or something like that. He knocks a creature into an object or something like that. So definitely should be using these maneuvers. And there is the, catch a breath maneuver, which allows you to regain some stamina. You can use a recovery, but I'm not sure if you can only use that once per encounter or what the stipulation is for that. I would imagine so, because if not, then that would be a very powerful maneuver that you can just spam when you're in dire need of it. But anyways, hopefully you guys got some idea of how combat works. But of course, there's just so much more to it that I didn't really point out, such as malice. I didn't really want to dive into that as much because, well, still kind of learning the game, but also I knew that if I would just be using malice to accost my heroes at every turn, which I suppose that's what you're supposed to do. And then outside of combat, there's things like negotiation, which is its own other beast with its own set of rules, which is actually really interesting. But of course, I'm not going to do that when it's just me playing. But, you know, when you have a DM who can definitely get into that role play, yeah, for sure. It's very interesting, and I suggest you check it out if you can. But for now, Feel free to leave a comment down below, give this video a huge thumbs up to support the series, and I will see you guys in the next video.